Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel for another video on Gran Turismo 7. We're back with a daily race C at Brands Hatch from the back of the grid. So we managed to get our second account sorted to race online so we can have some fun and some bit more relaxed racing. So yeah, we're going to go from the back of the grid and see if we can get as far forward. Now this was on a Monday night, racing quite a competitive lobby, mainly A+ drivers in the lobby. I think there was pretty much 15 A+ and 1 A ranked driver. Now unfortunately, GT7 has reduced the field size down to 16, and this one actually reduced it further down to 14, but that is actually going to help me out. We are technically last in the race, P14. Let's see what we can do. Now, like I say, this is a competitive lobby. We've got A+ drivers mainly in this race and only 1 A ranked driver. Everyone else is, you know, top split daily race drivers, so this is going to be difficult to try and make our way to the front or at least get into the top 5. We've got the likes of Rory in here and we've got Ollie, etc. So it's not going to be an easy lobby, but we know that with a strategy in mind of what we're going to do, we're going to go for a no-stop strategy. So I'm going to try and point out some tips as we race here, starting the race, and show you what we're doing. So you might see I'm in mixture free. Now the reason for that is why we're in the slipstream at the start. We know we're going to probably be faster than the drivers in front of me. So instead of losing time in mixture 1 and burning fuel, I'm just leaving it there in mixture 3. Now one thing I will say is I have figured a better way of doing this fuel saving since doing this race. As we go for a move on the inside of P13 and nearly lose control, just about managed to save it there. You can see, got all out of control, but just about managed to save the rear of that car. So a close call there, nearly lost it straight away from the get-go, managed to save it. So lose a little bit of time there, but yeah, we have managed to make a better way of doing the strategy. You can see at the moment through this middle sector, I'm using mixture 3 and 4 and stuff. Now, since doing this, we've done some races from the front of the grid, and it's actually better to use mixture 1 and 2 and just short shift very drastically, like really short shift. Don't rev it out at all. Basically, as soon as you see a bit of revving coming up, just short shift up, and that seems to be a more effective way of doing the fuel save strategy. Now, we did this the other day from the front, and we did a 33 finishing time, and we did 25 ones pretty much solid, 25-0, 25-1, 25-2 consistently every lap. And then we made a few mistakes at the end when the tyres were fading, so there was potential to probably get a 31 finishing time in it. But yeah, that is probably the better way to do it. So if you're looking to do fuel saving, using mixture 1 and 2 and just short shifting with this Peugeot seems very, very effective. You get a little bit better exit speed with mixture 1. With mixture 3, like I'm in now, you're going to have to rev it out a bit. You can see at the moment I'm going to at least 50% revs, so bear that in mind if you're doing this. You can do the strategy that I'm on, it will work, doing mixture 3 and stuff like that. Some people prefer to drive a car like that rather than short shifting really gradual, because you've got to keep a lot of momentum to do the mixture 1 way of doing it, and like short shifting straight away, you have to keep the momentum out of the corners, where with the revving it out mixture 3 through the corners, you can just keep on that throttle a little bit more maybe. But yeah, working our way here, still in P14, so we've not really made any progress, but this is all about being patient. Patience to keep your strategy on target. Now one thing I need to tell people about this as well, because I've seen a few comments that haven't fully understand the fuel at the bottom, and I think it's very important that you lot know about this. So if you look at the laps remaining, that laps remaining is based on an average of how you are currently driving and how you have driven for the lap, for the first 2 laps now. So for these first 2 laps, if I carry on driving like this, this is how many laps I've got left. So if I go faster and start pushing, that will decrease, because that's, as an average, I'm going to need more fuel. So when you go in the pits, always remember that if you've been driving on a fuel save for the first, say, 7 or 8 laps, and you go in the pits and you're recommended where the dot is, says, right, you need to fuel up to there, then it's not going to be correct if you start pushing. As we're going to go for a move on P13, up the inside, and take a nice position there and gain a position. So finally up a position, we're up to P13, but again, we're doing the fuel save strategy, so it's not too bad that we're not gaining massive amount of pace. We're just trying to keep it consistent. So yeah, always bear that in mind when you go in the pits. Keep an eye on that dot, the white dot where it tells you is where you need to pit. Because if you're going on a fuel save for the first 7 laps and then go maximum attack on the last 6, and you've only fueled up to the dot, you won't make it to the finish. You always have to bear that in mind. It's an average of how you've driven for the first part of the race, or up to the point where you are now. So for example, ours is there saying, you know, we've got more fuel than we need, so we can start probably pushing a little bit more aggressively towards the end of this race if we need to, and that's what we're trying to do. You've got to just always realize it's an average, it's not dead on based on 100% driving. So yeah, hopefully that clears that up for some of you, because I know that a few people in the comments in streams have been a bit confused and saying that I think they thought it was based on driving 100%, but that's not how it is. So yeah, we're now behind P12 and we're working our way to complete lap 3. Again, just sitting in that slipstream as we've got a yellow flag up ahead. I'm not sure what's happened there, but probably maybe someone spun on the final corner or into turn 1 up here and just giving us that early warning. But going through turn 1, P11 goes a little bit wide there, but not a little bit wide. He goes a little bit sliding through the corner, but he manages to save that. No issues there. And again, we're just being very patient here. So when you're doing a fuel save strategy, one thing you don't want to do is get brought into a battle of just pushing an overdrive, and you've got to stick to the strategy that you want. As we see, a car has spun out. That's another position gained. He's made a little bit of an error there. 360 in the middle of the track, and we are through up another position now. So yeah, looking quite good. We're up to P11. We're around about 11, I think we're 11-12 seconds behind the leader. Now the pit lane loss with fuel is more than that, so it's looking pretty good. However, when they come out the pits, they're going to be very, very fast on the last few laps when we've got to save fuel. But you can see, doing a little bit of mixture 1, back into mixture 3. On the straights in general, you want to use the lower fuel mixture. Through the corners, you use a higher mixture. So even if you're doing the short shift plan, there's a massive moment there. The car in front goes wide, and somehow he goes just in time for me to get through. That was a close one. But again, when stuff like this is going for you, you know that there's a possibility of a good result because things are working out quite well. And one thing I'll say is once we get a bit of clean air, we can start doing better lap times. You can see instantly, now that we've got clean air, we've done a personal best, and we can start driving the track how we want to, because when you're following someone, you have to go by how fast they're going through corners. Now we can drive our own way, and you can see a few drivers in the pits, and we're up to P7 now. So we've actually jumped a few more drivers during the pit stop phase. And this race at the moment is looking pretty good. We're doing pretty well here as we skip ahead again to lap 7 now. And you see another driver going into the pits, another 2 drivers going into the pits there. We've got Rory going in the pits. Ollie is staying out in the lead there. And you can see that our gap to Ollie is around 7 seconds. So we know that when he pits, we're going to be at least 9 to 10 seconds ahead when he comes out. And that should be plenty of time to finish ahead of Ollie. We know Ollie was technically in P3. So the race is looking like a podium, at least at this point. I was thinking, right, we're on for a podium. We just got to keep it consistent. We've got technically P1 behind. The guy who was in P1 is behind me now in P3. And we've got a 6-second lead. So we've got to keep that 6 seconds for the remaining laps while fuel saving with all the tyres. It's going to be hard, but if you keep yourself to your plan that you start off with, it can really work out. So yeah, you've just got to keep very, very disciplined when you're doing these no-stop strategies. Now, in terms of which is faster, I think the one-stop versus the no-stop is pretty close. The one-stop is probably a second or 2 seconds quicker if you nail it, but nailing that fast approach at this track is very difficult. As we go through the right-hand corner there and into this right-hand corner, you can see I'm pushing a little bit more now because I know I've got to start driving. And we hit the curb funny and we run wide. We get a little bit of dirty tyres and we just about manage to keep it on track. Now, luckily, that very often is a penalty, but we got away with it. I'm not sure if it's because we lifted and didn't run completely off the track, but we got away with that one. Now we've got to try and clean these tyres up. We've got a driver in front of us there. I think that's Ollie making a mistake, and that's actually got himself a penalty. So he's going to be well out of this race now. I think we had him covered anyway because we were about 7 seconds behind, 6-7 seconds behind, and that is plenty of time with the strategy that I'm on to finish ahead because P2 was ahead of him anyway, that's behind us now. But yeah, this is what you've got to do. You've got to keep very disciplined and keep yourself focused. That little mistake there could be costly. We've got the gap now down to 4.8 seconds and we've got quite a few laps to go with a driver on fresh tyres and with a lot more fuel than what I've got. But at the moment, we're keeping ourselves composed. One little mistake, we're going to keep going and try and push now and make sure we don't make any more mistakes. So using mixture 2 into the exit here. And one thing I want to say about using different mixtures as well, which will benefit you as well with the no stop, is tyre wear. So mixture 1 will use more tyre wear to your rears because you can put a little bit more power to the rear tyres, because what it's doing is it's giving more fuel to the engine, and that's going to give more power, which again is going to take more life out of your rear tyre. So using mixture 2 and 3 and stuff through corners should help your rear tyre life for this type of strategy. So bear that in mind as well, whether you go for the other strategy that I talked about by using mixture 1 and 2. Now, we did it last night. For me personally, I think using mixture 1 and 2, maybe the odd little bit of mixture 3 through this section here because you don't lose too much time, is a better way to do it. But you know, if you're not confident with that, you might want to just come out of the exits in mixture 2 and 3 just to save them tyres a little bit more. Every little bit like that helps tyre saving. Another thing to point out with regards to tyres is every single downshift you do will take a little bit of tyre life out of your rear tyres. So trying to reduce the amount of downshifting you do in this race will make your tyres better. So, you know, for future races, this should all be benefit in terms of information for you. But you can see at the moment, we're keeping very consistent. We're actually still in the lead of this race, driving nice and smooth. And at the moment, things are looking quite good. We're in the lead of this race, and we're doing actual personal best sector times through this point at the moment. So the pace is still reasonably okay in terms of tyre wear, in terms of fuel. The fuel looks alright. Our fuel's pretty much on point. It's maybe would have liked a little bit more, but it's not too bad. You can see there, gradually going into mixture 1 as we get into the straight, and now we're going to work our way into this really fast flowing section, which is all about cornering speed. And that's why in general I use mixture 3 through this sector, although with the new strategy I found mixture 2 was pretty good through doing this and just short shifting it in mixture 2 and then going to mixture 1 for the straights but short shifting. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend using mixture 1 through these sections in general. If you're going for a fuel save strategy, you'd have to shift very early and you don't really get much benefit out of it, because mixture 3 drives pretty fast through there. Just make sure you get it into mixture 1 and stuff like that for as soon as you're getting on the power. You can see how I go to mixture 1. As soon as you're getting on the power on the straight, into mixture 1, that's going to give you a bit more acceleration. You're not going to lose as much time then. So keeping it nice and smooth now. We're over 3 seconds ahead. We're about 3.8 seconds, 3.6 seconds behind, ahead of P2. We've got quite a nice gap by the looks of it, looking at the track map, to P3 as well. So the race is actually going really well, and it's looking like we can get a good result here. At this point, I'm thinking worst case scenario, P2 catches us up and we're going to have to either defend or let him go and get a P2. But that's the worst case scenario. We're keeping it consistent. We're still doing, again, another blue sector, just nice and smooth, not making any big mistakes, and we're on for possibly getting a win on a Monday night from the back of the grid in top split against some very good drivers. So if we keep this up, we should be able to keep this position. I mean, I'm looking at the gaps as we're going through, and the gaps aren't coming down massively. You can see it. I was watching the gaps on the Delta, and P2 really wasn't gaining a massive amount. And now I was wondering, did he not change tyres or something? Because he doesn't seem to be gaining a massive amount, considering he's got fresh tyres and full fuel possibly. But yeah, at the moment, everything's going to plan. Just got to keep it nice and smooth. Now, I do like this strategy here. I think the advantage of doing this strategy, like I said, is you're not driving 100%, which makes it a lot easier to be consistent. Now, you do have to obviously bear in mind the rear tyres, but in general, if you're driving 70% rather than 95% in a race, you're going to make less errors and be more consistent. So in general, your results are going to be more consistent. So you might want to try this strategy out, but just remember, you are going to have to be cautious with rear tyres and keeping an eye on that fuel, because it is at a push doing this strategy in terms of fuel. But once you get in a rhythm of doing it, the more you do it, the more you learn about what the, you know, how much you need per lap, what the fuel usage is, what corners to use, what mixture and stuff like that. So again, we're now on the penultimate lap. We've got 2 laps to go. The gap is now down to 2 seconds, 2.2 seconds I think it is there, and this is going to be very close. We're going to have to just keep the pace consistent here. The tyres are fading massively. You can see the rear tyres, they are not looking they're not looking very good at all at the moment. They are struggling. So mixture 2 on the power here, make sure we don't go too aggressive there. Then mixture 1 on the straight, and just short shift in mixture 1 as we go all the way up into this really fast flowing section again. This is again where we're going to go to mixture 2 or 3 to try and carry the speed without using too much fuel. So nice into the apex there. A little bit of oversteer mid corner where the rears are starting to fade, but just about managed to save that. Clipping the curb, actually doing that quite nicely at the moment. We're trying to push at the same time here, and we're keeping that gap around 2.3, 2.4, 2.2 all the way through here. And now we're going to go on to the final lap. You can see the gap is now under 2 seconds, where he's obviously pushing. The gap under 2 seconds, this is going to be very, very close. You're going to have to keep this very smooth all the way on the final lap. The gap is at 1.7 seconds as we go into the final lap now. And we got just about enough fuel. You can see we've judged this pretty much perfect. You can see 1.1 lap of fuel left as we're going over the line. So we should be able to get over the line as long as we just keep the fuel safe and going all the way on this final lap. And you can see it looks like P2 has actually made a little bit of an error coming out of the final corner. He's dropped off 2 or 3 temps there, 4 temps, and now we've got an even bigger gap. So again, keep it nice and calm, and we can take a win in this daily race. This will be an actually really good result. I was actually really excited I was actually nervous on this one because we had started from the back of the grid, and there's some very fast drivers in this lobby, and we're in P1 from the back of the grid. Now, Obviously, if we'd started from P2 in this position, I wouldn't be nervous because we'd be a lot further ahead, I think. But when you're starting from the back, you've got traffic. We got held up at the start, probably by them drivers we were following. We saved a bit of fuel behind them, but in general, it's better to be in clean air. We found that out when doing this from the front, the strategy from the front. It seemed way better with no one in front of you, and the fuel saving was probably equally as good as well. So yeah, it's very difficult to do, and we've managed to get ahead of people that started 6 or 7 positions ahead of us, and they're not slow drivers. So this is going really well. Into the final section now, just trying to keep it nice and smooth. Mixture 4, just because of the fuel. I was keeping an eye on that fuel, but we've got a 2-second lead to P2 still. It looks like he's either suffering with tyres or fuel, or I'm not too sure what's happened with that driver. But onto the final straight, and we are going to take a win from the back of the grid on Daily Race C. So hopefully we give you some information there to help you with strategy and stuff throughout Gran Turismo 7's life. Like I say, short shifting mixture 1 and 2 is probably the better way in terms of overall performance, but some people might prefer the way it drives using that little bit higher fuel mixture. But yeah, we're going to take the win there. Very good result, and this is why we've created this second account. For races like this, we gained 13 positions in the race, so from P14 to P1 in a competitive Monday night Daily Race C. So very good race result for ourselves, and we actually managed to get, I think, 4 or 5 more podiums during the night. So a very, very good night of racing on Daily Race C from the back of the grid, and I can't wait to do more of these streams. Whether it's a pushing race and having to do overtakes, whatever it is, it's going to be a fun future for GT7. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will be back with more live streams and videos. Thanks again for watching, everyone.